Hey, how about some of those pre-show jitters?
Hello and welcome to the pre-show jitters for episode 2 of the Retrovarian. Tonight with me I'm going to have Mr. Jeff DeMarco. The reason I asked Jeff to help me with this particular episode is because, number one, I heard of him on From Here to the Void podcast, which I enjoy. It's quite a hilarious podcast if you have time to check it out. SoundCloud.com/From Here to the Void. It is Jeff with two of his friends, Sean and Richard, and I really enjoy it. It's fun to listen. But Jeff himself, he's a father, he's a writer, a wannabe filmmaker, an occasional artist, a podcaster, a gamer, a toker and a midnight something. I forget how the lyrics go. And he has a great sense of humor. And he is truly an all-around nice guy and a great father. I can't say that enough. So I asked him if he wouldn't mind helping me host an episode of The Retrovarian and what his favorite 80s musician would be. And he said, absolutely, Michael Jackson. So here we are with tonight's episode number 2 of The Retrovarian, Michael Jackson. Hello and welcome to The Retrovarian. With me tonight is my good buddy and new buddy, Jeff DeMarco. Thank you for joining me tonight, buddy.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure, really.
And you're going to learn all about Jeff DeMarco later on in the show and in the beginning and probably during it.
Right on.
Tonight we will discuss the history of Michael Jackson. So let's totally get crack-a-lackin' as we wig out to the tubular and most triumphant sound of Michael Jackson. All music used in Zerbinator's Retrovarian was performed by Beckett, courtesy of SoundCloud.com/Project Beckett, or at www.projectbeckett.uk.
Zerbinator's Retrovarian.
Ow! Welcome to Zerbinator's Retrovarian.
Wow.
Zerbinator's Retrovarian.
Totally for sure. Ooh. Yum.
The 80s Music Education Podcast.
Real.
Zerbinator's Retrovarian.
Whatever.
Oh my gosh.
Cool.
Zerbinator's Retrovarian.
I am so excited to have you here today, Jeff DeMarco. I've been listening to you for 12 episodes and now a 13th in your podcast, From Here to the Void. And I met you, if I may say. So you have your show on iTunes as well.
Yes.
And we both had the same tagline, and that's how I actually found you.
Yeah, I remember that. Whenever you sent me that message saying we had the same tagline, honestly, I I kind of felt bad about it at first.
Why?
I didn't want you to think we were trying to copy your style or anything, you know?
I knew that was inevitable. Somebody else had to have the same tagline. But our taglines are, and you still use it, yeah?
It's
Good.
not on the SoundCloud anymore, but we do still use it, like, actually within the episodes themselves.
Good.
So,
Yeah, leave it there. Don't change that.
and by the way, your response whenever you said "great minds think alike," whenever I try to apologize for it, sweetest thing ever.
Oh, bless you. I was just going to say, great minds think alike.
Right.
But it is, we both do, mine is Please Stand By, yours is From the Void and Beyond, or From the Void and Beyond. Now, see, this is a bad host.
No, you're fine. Then. From Here to the Void.
From Here to the Void. From the Void and Beyond. Well, you do the podcast with two other gentlemen. Go ahead and tell a little bit about your show, please.
From Here to the Void is a podcast I do with Richard Bailey and Sean Strife. Sean's a little more in and out than me and Richard are. Mm-hmm. He's just, busy. He's got a different schedule than we do. But basically, we just decided one day we wanted to do a podcast that was essentially just shooting the shit, because some of the best conversations me and him have ever had have just been these really out there, crazy ideas that don't really make any sense except to us.
Exactly.
Yeah. So we had tried to do a podcast a couple years ago that was actually called FFN, which stood for, sorry, I'm going to have to make you censor this,
sure.
F***ing film nerds. And at the time, we just thought it'd be great to geek out over movies, but we recorded a few episodes and we realized how pretentious we were sounding, so we kind of backed away from it. And then Richard had this idea, so we just kind of ran with it. And Surprisingly, it sort of took off in a weird way.
Yeah. And you're
Yeah.
13 in, and it's going very well. I enjoy listening to it. I really do, especially on nights when I'm working and driving around and there's plenty of time to listen to it. And it's great, especially being a delivery dude. So I'm sad.
Thank you. Seriously. Thank you. In a weird way, I was super, I don't want to use the term starstruck, but incredibly flattered that you took such an interest in it just because, no, I mean, like, how long have you been doing this exactly?
Oh, gosh, it's a brick wall that I keep running at. And it's been smacking me in the face. No, 2000, I think 2007 or 8 is when I started.
Oh, wow. So you've been doing it since kind of like podcast really became a thing then.
Yeah.
Wow.
I jumped on the bandwagon when I found out, wait, you could do this for free? And then
Right.
people will hear me besides people I know? That'd be great.
Right. It's like the Wild West for podcasters right now, man. Yeah, it's just completely unfiltered.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I was like super, in a weird way, kind of starstruck whenever you took such an interest in it and started messaging us, and you gave me some technical advice in the beginning, turned me on to some good programs to use. And that commercial you did for us, man, like I remember showing it to Richard and Sean at work the next day, bringing it in, playing it loudly, like, look, we did something. Like, it was so cool.
Thank you. I appreciate that very much. That makes me feel good, too. And I enjoy doing that, so thank you.
Oh, no, thank
I
you.
don't know how to act when people do that, but thank you very much.
I'm the same way, man. It's all good.
I didn't get to our subtext, which was a podcast about nothing and everything all at once. That was our catchphrase, or whatever you want to call that, at the bottom of our shows. And that's what latched me on, so that is cool.
Ladies and gentlemen, if I may, a new podcast from Richard Bailey, Sean Strife, and Jeff DeMarco. From Here to the Void. Find them on SoundCloud.com. From Here to the Void. Facebook.com. From Here to the Void. Subscribe to them on iTunes. It's a podcast about everything and nothing. It's a podcast about nothing and everything. Listen, love it, live it, listen to it, love it, live it.
Just go to SoundCloud.com/From Here to the Void. And now back to a regularly scheduled program.
Well, tonight's artist is Michael Jackson, the pinnacle of musicians anytime.
Tonight's featured artist.
I wanted to ask you some questions about Michael Jackson before we get into the history of him and his life and his legacy and his everything. And I was going to ask you, when was the first time you've ever seen or heard of Michael Jackson? When did he pop into your life?
Okay, I know this is going to sound kind of goofy, but are you familiar with The Simpsons?
Of course I am.
Okay, great. So I'm like a lifelong diehard fan, right?
Oh, yeah, me too.
I remember being very young, and there was an episode from season 3. I think it was called Stark Raving Dad.
Yes.
Where Homer's committed in the asylum with that bald guy who thinks he's Michael Jackson. That was my first exposure.
Who actually was Michael Jackson.
Yeah. Apparently, he actually did that episode because he had written. You remember the song they did way back when the show first started, "Do the Bartman"?
Yeah.
He actually co-wrote that song.
Get out of here. Now that I did not know.
Yeah, they kept that kind of under wrap and key because that was part of the deal. Like, he came to the creators and said, I want to give Bart Simpson a #1 single, but he didn't want his name attached to it because he just wanted it to focus on Bart. So to kind of repay him, they put him in an episode.
That is awesome. I never knew that
right?
at all.
It's really neat.
Did he get, he didn't get credit, too, at the end of the show. Didn't they say that was somebody else?
Yeah, because at the
vaguely
time, I
remember
think
that.
it was this weird stigma for, like, big-time celebrities to be attached to cartoons. Like, now it's no big deal, but then, I think it was in season 2, actually, Dustin Hoffman also did a guest spot, and they had to use an alias for him as well, just for the same reasons. Yeah.
That's amazing. And I forgot what name they gave him, but I remember when that episode came out, and I remember watching it and then thinking to myself, gosh, that if this person sounds that much like Michael Jackson when he's singing Lisa, and then this guy's going to take Michael Jackson's career away from him because he's really good. Because I read the credits, I'm like, that's not Michael. Holy crap!
Right.
What was I guess that's the first time you've heard him sing. But what was your first song that you've heard him perform?
First song that I heard him perform, I almost want to say it's Billie Jean, but honestly, I think it was Smooth Criminal. Was the first song I ever heard from him.
That's one of my favorites, too, because it's just like, that's a double bass drum song.
Oh, yeah.
Papa Roach's version. Oof. And, but have you heard that one? The heavy metal-ish version of it?
I heard a version from Alien Ant Farm, but I don't think I've heard Papa Roach's version.
Do you know what? That's an old man talking, because you're right. It is Alien Ant Farm. I thought it was Papa Roach. I'm an idiot.
Well, they sound kind of similar, so.
And they do, and I'm not going to fix that because I deserve that one.
No.
It's like, have you ever heard of a band called the Kingsman Trio? Son, let me tell you. That's about that. The video, did you see the video as well when you heard the song?
No, not at the time. I just heard the song because it was in heavy rotation, but later on I ended up seeing the video.
And what was your thoughts when you heard his voice? I mean, how did that feel?
Man, it's weird. Like, it musters up this strange mixture of emotions in a man, like...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very well said. Very well said.
I imagine if I was a straight female, it'd be different, like it'd be a more natural, like, oh, just so sultry and smooth. But as a man, you're confused, like, you don't know how to feel, but you enjoy it. So it's a strange mixture.
Both.
It leaves you questioning things.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
Because his high-pitched voice.
Yeah.
Is what does it.
It never seemed to age. Like, no matter what age he was, that voice always remained constant,
Well,
or consistent, I guess.
That's true. And for me, the first time I ever heard him was back when The Wall came out. And, gosh, the old 70s sound. I mean, I heard him when he was a little kid singing, Rockin' Robin and all of that stuff. And I thought it was back then I thought it was a product of like a TV show or a Disneyland group or something that wasn't going to last. And it was just that. I didn't know the history. I didn't know anything like that. And then actually my sister got The Wall on the record and I just listened to it. I was hooked. That was it. The guy was amazing. And to me, it seems like his voice got tintier the older he got, but I think it was because he started singing higher. But I can't remember when that difference kind of happened, if it happened during the Jackson 5 or whichever. Did you ever see him live? Did you ever get that chance?
Unfortunately, no. Like, I think the most I've ever seen him live outside of, like, there was that Super Bowl performance that was huge in the mid-'90s. Yeah, I can't remember which Super Bowl it was exactly. I actually looked it up earlier just to try to remind myself, and I forgot what I looked up. Of course. But
it had to do with the football, though. That's good.
Yeah. So that was probably the first time I ever actually got to see him live.
And we mentioned the Ant Farm, but... Are you a musician yourself? Do you play or jam or do?
I tinker with bass, but that's about as far as I go. I wouldn't call myself a musician, though.
Have you ever played any Michael Jackson songs yourself?
I actually learned Billie Jean, like the bass line from it, or an adapted bass line for it. Yeah. So, I could play that.
And that's an awesome one to play, too. I've done that on guitar.
Yeah. I'd like to hear that.
Yeah.
I'd like to hear that review sometime.
Oh, I gotta try to record it. I would just jam it out during intermissions and whatever I was jamming with in a band sometime, and be like, "Hey, Michael Jackson, anybody?" Just to test the audience. But the town I grew up, it seemed uncool. That was what the shame was. I think it was like uncool to be into Michael Jackson where I grew up because everybody was like Motley Crue in the 80s, and it was like a rockin' area, and all the preps and the dainty Valley Girl people were into Michael Jackson. But I was considered a rat, which was the long hair, 80s guy this close to wearing makeup and Twisted Sister. And so liking Michael Jackson, there was a huge respect for Michael Jackson. I mean, huge. But, listening to him, that meant there was something off with you. Did you ever get into the Jackson 5 or listen to past Jackson 5 goodies, like really old Michael Jackson?
Well, I've listened to some Jackson 5. Like, honestly, I kind of felt like I wasn't really loaded for bear whenever I came into this podcast, just because I was thinking, like, oh man, he might ask me about Jackson 5.
You know, it could never happen with a swipe of a delete button.
But, you know, I know a little bit. Like, that Rockin' Robin cover you were talking about, that was Jackson 5, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. So I've heard that, and then, you know, everybody's heard ABC. And then, you know, I've heard some of the backstory about the weird kind of traumatic childhood that they all had with the strict upbringing and, the lessons and whatnot. So, you know, I know some, but I'm not overly familiar with a lot of the Jackson 5 stuff.
I grew up with listening to them, and I was going to ask you who your favorite band member was in the Jackson 5. And you could always you could answer by saying Dorito, and it would be fine.
Dorito?
Yeah, he played bass. No, do you know the members? Were you?
No, not really.
Ever privy? Tito or Jermaine. Jermaine, because he always tried following. Well, Janet wasn't really part of the Jackson 5, of course, but Janet definitely took off for a career for herself. But I think Jermaine was the one that came closest. And just like a little history lesson I'll give you is Jermaine in the 80s tried so hard to match his brother's fame and actually got a couple albums out that might have been like second place to him. But that was it. Then after that, it kind of faded. Poor guy. But he tried. But his sister took off like a bat. Boy, she was great. And Janet performed my favorite album by her. Janet Jackson's Rhythm Nation. 1814. I didn't just take 20 seconds to try to find that. and the rest of the Jacksons, you can't remember them unless you hear Tito and Jermaine. And mostly because Eddie Murphy did that joke in the Raw comedy special. Tito, get me a tissue. Jermaine, stop teasing. You ever see that?
Oh, I get it now. Like, that joke just always flew over my head. But
yeah.
Okay, cool. Right on. I learned something today.
There's a click and a curl in his brain, ladies and gentlemen. Well, now we're going to cover the history of the artist. Well, Michael Jackson was born Michael Joseph Jackson, so everybody who thought MJ was cool, imagine if he went MJJ.
I would have preferred MJJ, to be completely honest with you.
And not just that, he could have been the first one to go, Dynamite! That's not. He was born August 29th, which is actually pretty soon, in 1958. He would be how old now? He would be 58, right?
Yeah, I think you're right on that. Okay. Good math on the fly, by the way.
Hey, thanks.
Yes.
And then he passed away June 25th, 2009, which we'll get into, the poor gentleman. But he was a singer, a songwriter, a record producer, a dancer, a breakdancer, a moonwalker, a screamer, a singer, a piper, a smoker, a toker, and a midnight stoker. Famously called the King of Pop, of course, and his contributions to music and dance and fashion were outstanding. Have you ever tried dressing like him?
Thankfully, no, because I am totally one of those guys who couldn't pull it off.
I did in the 80s. I was wearing a members-only jacket that had zippers that went...
No way, man.
You're darn straight. I was a breakdancer, baby.
You gotta... If you can find a picture of this, man, you've got to show me.
No, I don't think those will make the headlines. But I could. I think I was 14. Actually, I remember some pictures in my members-only jacket that had slanted zippers. And he was a pop culture icon.
Probably the most influential artist of all time. Well...
Yeah. No, you can say that with glee.
Okay, I'll gladly say that whenever it comes to popular music, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah, because it's kind of tough between him and the Beatles, but since we're focusing on 80s, you know.
I guarantee you, if you go to an international airport and people coming off the plane from any country, Zanzibar, India, anything, they come off the boat and then you say boat or plane, because that's what lands in an airport, a boat, and then you say to them, hey, how you doing? And they look at you like, gay? Or, I don't understand you. And you go, Michael Jackson. They go, Michael Jackson. Everybody.
There you go, yeah.
You know what I mean? That was a long way to go for that. I'm sorry. But, yeah. He was international. Anybody knows Michael Jackson. Anybody. Newborns come out Right.
They know Michael Jackson.
They know Michael Jackson. It's instilled in their brains.
What's crazy to me is just how much he's really sold worldwide. Like, I knew it was a huge number, you know, but it wasn't until earlier, whenever I was kind of looking through some of his record sales, that I really noticed just how much exactly. Like, geez, what's his overall album sell count? 400 million records worldwide.
And
that is insane.
That's not counting downloads.
Yeah.
I wouldn't think that would include downloads. And this is a time when you bought records. You know, my first CD that I ever purchased in 1984 was Michael Jackson's Thriller. And my first experience with completely non-aired cassette or crackly record music was You Gotta Be Starting Something was number one on the album. And when I heard that, I was just like, I have never heard something so clean in my life. And it was Michael Jackson's Thriller, greatest album in my life so far.
The greatest album in your life?
That makes no sense.
Like,
let me do that again. Hold on,
No,
I have a sip
fine.
of coffee. It's good stuff. The most amazing album I think ever made was Michael Jackson's Thriller.
There you go. You know, I can't even really contest that. Like, it's such a good album. Like, I always thought the single Thriller itself was a little overrated. Maybe that's just because I'm kind of partial to Billie Jean myself. But
well, Halloween has soaked it up, and you're going to hear it every year for the rest of your life.
Oh, yeah.
Every year at Halloween is Thriller. You're going to talk about the song itself, right?
Yeah. It's pretty crazy how much that song really just like kind of seeped into every facet of pop culture at the time. I mean, like, I was just recently. Do you remember that old Simpsons arcade game, the little coin op side scrolling one that was like a beat 'em up or whatever?
Yeah.
I don't know if you. Yeah, I was playing through it the other day, and there's actually a level where you're in a graveyard, and these zombies pop up and start doing the Thriller dance and stuff. I mean, like, it was. Yeah, it was in video games. You know, like, it's just. I don't know, man. It's crazy. Like, there had never been a song before then that had really had such a crossover appeal quite like that one had.
All over the place. You're absolutely right. I can't think of one. You never heard the Yardbirds music in Duke Nukem. I'm just saying.
Duke Nukem.
There must be something in the water where he was born, which is Gary, Indiana. We know about his childhood. We know that he was, like you said, he had a very, very rough childhood. And I keep wondering if that is what helped create the unimaginable beauty of his music, or is it something that hindered something that could have been even more amazing? Your thoughts?
Well, what's kind of interesting to me is, like, there's there's the whole argument that, like, from pain comes great art or whatever, you know, like, you ever heard the phrase suffer for your artwork? In a lot of ways, I kind of believe that his music was kind of probably a result of that. But it's interesting because I was actually looking into what you're talking about right now earlier, and a lot of his siblings actually didn't consider what they went through abuse. So maybe it was a little rougher for him as opposed to the rest of them, you know? And I remember reading an interview not too long ago where his mother was actually trying to defend how they treated him. But even Michael Jackson has said he felt like the strict, kind of rigid, recording upbringing helped him kind of hone his skills in a weird, almost kind of cathartic way. Like, that was his way of kind of appeasing whatever it was he was going through at the time to try to mitigate it in his own mind.
Wow. Yeah, and I never thought about that too. Well, I guess I did think about it, but it clicked in my head while you were saying that him being the front man, he probably suffered a lot more than the background band did.
Yeah.
I wonder if Janet ever went through some of that. I'd have to research, but what Janet had to have gone through, or did Joe is his father's name, did Joe leave her alone completely? Don't know. I have no clue.
It worked. I mean, like not, it wasn't a good thing, but, look what he got out of it. You know? Like, he really did create some beautiful art.
And he got paid back, for all those years of abuse. He ended up becoming the king of something. Every single album produced, 4 or 5 number one hits, at least?
Yeah, at least.
Every single album.
Yeah, some of them even as much as 6 or 7. Like, I think it was Thriller where almost every song on the album ended up being a number one single. right? Was it
Yeah.
Thriller?
Yeah.
I think it was Thriller.
You're absolutely right. And it's like, no one else could ever do that, at least in my lifetime. If they do, I'd be amazed. Nowadays, they're giving like a piece of popcorn that pops funny a #1 Grammy recording contract. It's just terrible. You know, these are people that would write everything out and then work everything out. And there's a couple that are coming up in the woodwork that start out independent and then become something important, which I like. And a lot of the independent musicians aren't getting the credit they deserve, but that's a whole other conversation.
Right.
If I may say so. Married to Lisa Marie Presley.
Now, that's an interesting one. I was actually reading a little bit about that today, but I didn't really go down the rabbit hole in terms of like the turmoil with the relationship and whatnot. What eventually caused them to split up, or was it ever really said? Because I know the divorce was kind of civil, and they had an on and off thing for a few years afterwards before he got with his second wife.
Well, I'm not sure what made the divorce happen, but I'm going to attribute it to the 1993 being accused of sexual abuse with children.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And I think it got a little too much for Lisa, and that's my guess. I'm not a historian on this. I do believe that collecting Elvis Presley, memorabilia is awesome, but marrying one can cause problems. No, she's kind of out there herself a little bit. She's good talent. She's okay. She's not like her dad, but I don't know. I would think that would be the breakdown because things were getting a little too rough, and I'm sure that his reaction to the accusations, which to this day, I have no clue if that happened or didn't happen. There's so much more coming out now that kind of points in the direction that it might have.
Yeah, I was reading about that a few weeks ago.
Yeah, and his childhood, I could understand. Not condoning it, but I could understand the understand what I'm saying. Yeah, the thought process because of what he dealt with growing up with the abuse. It's going to come out again later in some form, and unfortunately, and I would hate to say it, but I'll just leave it like that. It's such a dark thing. During that time, I couldn't believe it. There was no way I could believe it.
Yeah, for sure.
And only Macaulay Culkin knows.
Only Macaulay Culkin knows.
Yeah.
I shouldn't be laughing at that. But.
or Mila Kunis, because they were dating for a while.
Mila Kunis and Macaulay Culkin?
And Macaulay Culkin before Ashton Kutcher swiped her up.
Well, she traded up, I guess.
Yeah, she did.
Yeah.
She's kind of lazy with it, though. She's like, we did a show together. You want to hang out? Okay.
Yeah. All right. In her defense, I will say Macaulay Culkin's got a bit of a Skeletor look going on these days.
He sure does. So it's just such a dark time in Michael Jackson's life. And like I say, I am not sure if it happened or didn't happen. I'm hoping it didn't. And if it did happen,
I think it's important whenever it comes to things like these, or it comes to things like this. And I've been thinking this way a lot about Bill Cosby recently, too, with I mean, with him, it's a little more concrete, But I think it's important to remember that whenever you're admiring someone's, body of work, it's about the art and not the artist necessarily.
Good point. That's true.
Yeah. So I try to keep that in mind. Like, even though I don't like Bill Cosby at all, I could admire The Cosby Show because it was a well-written show. I can admire his early stand-up because it was funny, even if some of the Spanish Fly references are kind of odd now.
Yeah, exactly.
but the same thing with Michael Jackson, like despite all the allegations and stuff, it's hard to deny that his music is what it is, like work of art.
Yeah.
And a lot of great stuff, too, so.
80s video commentary.
Hey, Jeff.
Yes?
Are you in the mood for some 80s video commentary?
Well, of course.
Well, what would you like to do? What video you think would be appropriate for tonight's show?
Let's rock it with some Billie Jean.
You got it, dog.
Dog.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to do the commentary for the video Billie Jean, performed by Michael Jackson, written and performed by Michael Jackson. This particular video has how many views?
226 million and some change. I had a brain club there. All right.
This is off of Vimeo, and the link for this particular video will be in the show notes. If you would like to follow along, please click on it. I will count down for this particular song. And here we go. Is everybody got it loaded in their computer and devices?
I sure do.
All right, let's do it. 3, 2, 1, go. And we start off with a nice brick wall with shadows.
Oh man, leather gloves.
Leather gloves.
You know it's going to be intense.
All good videos in the 80s had leather gloves and trash.
And smoking.
But
when did that stop being cool?
When I think when inhalers came in. I don't know.
Look at that.
Michael Jackson in the day when he only made change, and he always flipped that quarter going, I'll make more than this one day.
I like that his bow tie is slightly askew, as if that really shows just how, reckless he can be.
My dad was in the video. Did you see him there? Oh,
that was your dad?
Yeah, well, he started out early. Look at that. Mike gives his only quarter to a golden cup.
What a caring guy.
And then here comes Don Rickles. That bow tie, you were mentioning that. I think it's a matter of stealing the rights from Pee Wee Herman, but that's just me. So I never understood why wherever Michael steps, it would brighten up.
I never did either, but ever since I've seen this, or ever since I saw this video originally growing up, I've always wanted light up floors in my house just like that.
You could just them in there now.
That'd be cool, man. Like, I want my steps to light up as I go get coffee in the morning or, walk to the bathroom. I just want to feel cool. Like, look at that. Look at that. He knows he's cool.
Look at me make the pole light up. Here comes somebody, and then in some kind of magic array of unknowity, Michael Jackson disappeared in a flash of light.
Oh, wow.
What does that have to do with Billie Jean, Not My Lover?
I don't know. Look at this. Look at that. That's nuts. Come on, man.
Well, when he dances like that, I'm sure his nuts jiggle a little bit.
I don't know. Those pants are pretty tight.
That's true.
I think those nuts are under lock and key.
You've ever driven by a billboard and had the girls do this to you? Where they just look at you and smile?
I wish.
Oh, it happens to me all the time.
That transition.
That's such a great transition.
Yeah.
And the painting in the background that goes off to Neverland if you take that high road.
Was that the inspiration behind the ranch?
I think so. Wouldn't it be funny if you actually just owned blue cheese? I'm just saying. Stupid too. But the thing is and this is pre, high effects. So the cool thing was freeze framing, boxing out things, detectives wearing full garb. So he's complaining about Billie Jean not being his lover. So does this mean basically they had a kid and he swears it's not his and he just doesn't want to take care of it? Or...
that's the message I take away from the song. Really, he's kind of a scoundrel when you think about it.
You'd think he'd be happy to have a son.
Yeah, no, I would be. I wouldn't run from it. But no, he's Michael Jackson.
It's Michael Jackson. That's true. And he's got a lot of tours coming up. He likes rolling up leather jackets halfway up his sleeves.
And being caught in awkward poses and freeze frames.
Exactly. And walking around and that's the Wall from the Wall album, I bet. Because that's the cover of his album is the wall in the background there.
I'd have to look at it again and kind of match up the graffiti and see.
Make sure it's the right one. It was. You can tell which album, what era, by the shape of his nose. That's one thing about Michael Jackson.
I actually read somewhere that the whole reason why he started getting surgery in the first place is because he broke it really bad to the point where he had to, and they botched it the first time. Oh,
pervert. This guy likes Michael Jackson. Yeah, he's upstairs in the bed, and some guy's taking pictures of him.
He just sunk into the bed. Where'd he go?
Well, I bet you $100 he's in blue cheese. I bet you this song was supposed to be blue cheese is not my dressing. I don't know why that. And then the tiger and the cat, and I don't get that. And this is a short song, isn't it? That's it?
It's a little bit shorter compared to most of his stuff. Like, normally his stuff runs about 5-6 minutes, right?
I guess so. So if you want to go to Ronald's Drugs and see cats turn into tigers, come on down.
Check out Billie Jean, man.
And check out Billie Jean if you see your walkway light up.
Yeah, I really wish they had done more with Billie, like the actual character of Billie Jean in the video.
Yeah, if they made it more of a, what do you call it? A documentary on how to be a father.
Yeah.
That would have been much better.
Would have been a cool take, for sure.
Exactly.
And now, before we go, let's interview our guest.
Well, now I'm going to interview my co-host, who plays bass. That's his attachment to music, but he's also one hell of a podcaster.
Thank you.
And I appreciate what you do. That's the reason I asked you to come on the show. Again, you did it in the beginning of the show, but tell me what got you into podcasting in the first place?
Well, honestly, like it sounds kind of strange, but whenever I was younger and whenever I was going to college for a little bit, like I was going specifically to try to be a filmmaker at some point. But whenever I was going, I kind of started to take a bit of an interest in journalism. Mm-hmm. I took some journalism courses and whatnot, and then, you know, podcasting isn't necessarily journalism, but in a way they can kind of go hand in hand. So through that, I just started getting introduced to the world of podcasting, you know. I started kind of going down that rabbit hole a little bit. I think the first podcast I ever really listened to was Smodcast from Kevin Smith.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was probably the first one I ever really got into. And there was something about the immediacy of the art form that just kind of attracted me. That, and I love just talking to good people, you know, like I like listening to interesting conversations. I love hearing what people have to say. So
that's a perfect reason to start podcasting right there.
Yeah. That, and it's free. Like, you know, like it costs nothing to do it. Maybe getting good equipment, you know, it doesn't cost anything to get them. You know, you just spread the love.
Exactly. You're spreading the love, and the thousands and thousands of people get to hear it. Before I continue with your interview, I should mention where you're located. It's called From Here to the Void. You can find it on iTunes, SoundCloud.com/From Here to the Void. Is there any other websites related to your podcast? Because I went searching up and down for more.
As of right now, no. Mainly just because, not to sound like I'm completely cheap, but I don't think I'm ready to commit to a monthly payment for a website just yet.
Yeah.
Because, you know, like we pay for the SoundCloud account. Me, Richard, and Sean, we do that jointly. But also, I've got like a webcomic series, and I've got stuff on an art shop that I pay advertising space for occasionally. So it's just a matter of trying to... Yeah, it's just a matter of trying to find like free methods to kind of navigate it. That, and I feel like the less money I have tied up in it, the less guilty I feel if it doesn't take off or get successful. Because I kind of had a bad experience with my webcomics whenever I first started it. A good friend of mine had actually built a website for me from the ground up, like completely coded it from scratch. And whenever he did it, he was paying for the domain space just as a favor to me. And he bought it up for like a year.
Oh, wow.
Man, we didn't get any visitors. Like, I could not pull people into it at all. So he lost money, and I felt guilty. So I decided after that, okay, I'm done. Just freebie all the way. You know, unless it's coming out of my pocket, free all the way.
I appreciate that very much because I am exactly the same way.
Right.
You mentioned comics. What else do you do besides podcasting?
Well, I have a webcomic series called Coping. It's which as of right now, I just have two. Like, you can find it on Facebook.com/Coping Comics, or you can. I have a Society 6 page too, where I sell a lot of my artwork, and I also sell merchandise from the webcomic. It's something I've been doing the last couple of years, and it's sort of based on me and my son, but not entirely. It's more just inspired by that. It's just the adventures of this single dad with his son, and they get in all kinds of mischief, and they're bunny rabbits. Like, all the characters are animals.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah. I tried to take the Mickey Mouse or the Walt Disney approach to the cartooning of it. You know, it's very reminiscent of those early 1930s, like Walt Disney, you know, black and white Mickey Mouse cartoons. Yeah. So it's kind of similar to that.
That I appreciate highly. And if you want to purchase some of his artwork, you can do that from the Facebook page as well. Right? Because there's a Shop Now button right here.
Yeah, the shop's kind of confusing at the moment because it's a mixture of coping stuff and then just some original pieces I do from time to time. But kind of just crammed it all into one profile. Why not?
I love the coping, and then there's a spider with the bunny looking quite like my daughter looks when she sees a spider. That's pretty good. But you got the mugs, you got the canvas prints, framed art, anything. It's called Jeff DeMarco's Art Stash. If you want to go straight there, society6.com/Jeff DeMarco. Please check that out. Hoodies, T-shirts, V-neck shirts, tank tops.
Oh, yeah, I'm kind of a whore about it. I try to slap it on everything.
Biker tanks.
Shower curtains, if you're interested.
I would, oh man.
I would buy shower curtains of that. I'm not going to lie. Not to toot my own horn, but I would.
Now, your bass playing skills, when did that start and how did that start?
It was in high school, and honestly, it kind of started like a lot of people just because I thought it'd be cool to be in a band.
Right, I understand.
And I had a pretty terrible band at the time. I've actually not really played it in some time, but mainly it was just a way to have fun. Like, I really admired people like Flea and Phil D from Korn. I don't know, man. It was just a lot of fun. Like, it's nothing I ever took seriously or that I do take seriously now, but like, I think it's cool and I really admire musicians. I'm friends with a few of them, but for me, it was just fun, just something to do.
Are you a pick player or a finger player?
Finger player.
Awesome.
I was trying to get good at slap bass for a while, but
hard.
It's hard. It's really hard.
So yeah, he is a musician as well, folks. Ladies, if you're in the Tennessee area and you're looking, you are in Tennessee, right?
Yeah, you had it right.
And you're looking for a good time, I highly suggest you hop on over to DeMarco's.
I am full of Simpsons knowledge, in case you're into that kind of thing.
Well, that answers the question, Family Guy or Simpsons.
Oh, yeah, no.
Do you feel the way I do? That's a question I should ask every co-host for this show. Do you feel that the Family Guy pretty much stole off of the Simpsons to make itself popular?
I'm not going to lie to you, man. This was a sore point for me in high school whenever Family Guy really took off. Mm-hmm. I would get angry because I felt like it was a blatant ripoff. And no offense to Mr. Seth MacFarlane, because I do think he's a very talented guy, and he can sing, man. He can really sing.
Yeah, he is talented. Yeah. I've enjoyed Ted's.
Yeah, Ted was good. I like American Dad a lot. Some of the later seasons are a little more hit and miss, but I enjoyed the show.
Yeah.
His original incarnation. I'm sorry, there's just nothing original about Family Guy. There's really not.
There isn't.
It's either incredibly mean-spirited or just kind of a copy.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and your son, you're going to do a podcast with your son? You ever thought about that?
I would absolutely love to. At the moment, he's kind of at the age where I don't think he could sit still long enough. For what?
My grandkid is like that now. She's 4.
Yeah.
And, I would love to have her sit with me, and we've sat together on the keyboard, but nothing more than that. Well, I want everybody to know that I'm going to end this show tonight with the song performed by Hardware. It is a cover of Smooth Criminal. Originally performed by Michael Jackson.
Ooh.
And I'm excited because this is a great cover of that song. Thank you, Hardware, for covering it, and I can't wait to hear it. I've already heard it, obviously, because I chose it. And all of the information for that song can be found at smarturl.it/smoothcriminalhw. Mr. DeMarco, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. Seriously, it was an honor, sir.
Bless you. And I hope to record with you again, definitely, in the future. On anything. Were you ever into 80s metal?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's another call coming your way eventually. You'll see. You'll all see.
I can't wait.
Join us next time when I discuss another 80s band with another 80s dude. And until next time, this is Jeff saying,
may you find your
All of Zerbinator's music and podcasts are under the Creative Commons license, which allows retelling and rebroadcasting as long as the author is notified and credited. For more great escape pods, please visit www.zerbinator.wordpress.com. If you would like to contact Zerbinatorland, you can send an email to instrumentally@gmail.com or give us a call at 571-408-ZERB or 9372.